Hello, everyone. Welcome to day number 2 of the Super United Rapid and Blitz in Croatia. We were not able to do highlights of round number 1 because yesterday was the International Chess Day, and we had a one-day activity at Times Square here in Dubai. It was a long day. It ended way past midnight, so it was just so tiring. So I just couldn't do highlights. Now we move into day number 2, and one of the highlights of this round is Wesley So's endgame masterpiece against Ivan Saric. Wesley is back. This is over the board. Played in Croatia. He played one of the top players in Croatia, Ivan Saric. Let's check it out. Ivan played e4. Wesley went for e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e5, knight f6. All right. So Wesley goes for the Berlin. Now, the Berlin line would be castles, and knight takes e4, rook e1, knight d6. In this game, white played d3. That's the anti-Berlin system. Wesley went for bishop c5. Again, this is not a free pawn. If you take on c6, for example, d takes c6, and if you capture this pawn on e5, black has queen d4, double attack on the knight, and that mate on f2. And also, one more thing. If, let's say, you play bishop e3, takes an e5, you play d4, for example, queen takes e4. If you take this queen takes g2. If you go rook f1, then bishop h3, winning again for black. Okay, you can go knight d2, for example, but this castle's queen side, yeah, this is too much. So c3 was played. The main thing is to control d4. White can also push d4 later. So as the castles for white, d6. From a Berlin, now the position in the middle game now resembles this Italian game, except for that bishop on b5. Started with a Roy Lopez Berlin, but Roy Lopez and Italian, it's closely knit. It's like a relative opening, you know. Bishop g5. Okay, we have h6, bishop h4, g5. Aggressive approach for white. With the pawn on c3, if this is a knight on c3, then white can go for knight hg5. Because if the pawn is a knight, let's say knight c3, then he can go for knight d5. But the pawn on c3 can sacrifice. So play bishop g3, knight into h5, knight d2, queen f6, takes. This is still line. e5, queen g7. So you take d4, bishop into b6. Here, Saric went for knight c4. Okay, this is actually a new move, a novelty. Okay, in the Grand Swiss Open, Caruana played a4 here first against David Howell. Okay, it was an important game for Caruana after winning the game against Howell. He also qualified for the candidates. It was an important tournament, by the way, qualifying for the candidates. Caruana went for a4 here, a5, knight c4, bishop e6, rook c1, takes. He went on to win the game after winning that pawn, yes, because queen e8 and takes. Howell couldn't take that pawn on d4. Caruana has this queen e4 check to the bishop, and there's knight over here. So with an extra pawn, Caruana went on to the game. But this time, Saric went for knight c4. It's a novelty. Bishop into e6, rook c1, except there's no a4. Yep. Now, what's the main difference? g4, same thing, knight h4, takes, rook a8. No pressure on the bishop, right? Takes b6. Now, if let's say you take here, okay, without the exchange, okay, if let's say you take on c6 here, He takes on e5. If you take on c7, then I can also take on d4, and this is potential pass pawn, right? So queen e2 was played, protecting e5. Okay, queen protects e5, pawn and queen takes, he takes e5, c5. b4, c4. Now Wesley has a fixed pass pawn, the c pawn. Look into e1, queen g5. Queen goes to e4, rook a8, provoking white to capture the c4 pawn. If white plays rook c2 to protect, for example, the a2 pawn, Wesley can fix it with b5. Even here with queen e4, he can actually fix it with b5. But he provoked rook takes e4. White play rook takes e4. This is a bad knight on h4, so white has to do something. Takes on c4, queen takes c4, rook e8. Now, without that bishop on e6, at least the knight can jump to that f5 square later in the game. Queen takes e7, rook e6, a4, and it also relies on his pass pawns. Rook f8, king h2, takes, rook takes e5, queen takes b6. Now, this is going to be very dangerous. Two connected pass pawns. But Wesley found a way. Started with rook e1, pressure on h1. Yeah, queen c1 is coming. White played queen b8, king g7, queen c7, queen c1. Now threatening mate, and then the exchange of the queen. Now this is very tempting also for white. Why? You have the connected pawns. The knight is coming to help. Yes, the knight is coming to help with knight f5. So let's start with knight f5. King g6. White is too ambitious, he played knight e7. If he wants a draw, he can play knight h4. Black is forced to go for the draw because if you play king g5, for example, queen d8 is going to be mate. You play f6, queen g8. Only move king h5, queen g6 is checkmate. If you play king to f6, for example, queen d6, you cannot go back to g5 once more, so only move would be king g7. Now white has queen d4. White always has this perpetual with queen d3, queen d4, queen d3, queen d4, queen d8. Again, white played knight e7. You can understand why. You have the connected pawns, right? But Wesley is in control. Rook takes c1, c. Oh, he played the endgame. e5, king f6 attacking the knight. Knight into c6, rook to b1. Okay, attacking the more advanced pawn. Of course, white cannot play a5. Rook will take the pawn on b5. f3, h5, fixing that king. All right. f4, king e6. King now goes to the pawns. Yeah, okay. a5. Interesting, yeah? Tricky move. You cannot take on b5, right? You lose that rook with a double attack. In endgames, you gotta be careful. So king d6. h6. Oh. King c7, a7, just in time. King takes away the a8 square. All right. Knight check, king takes. Knight takes f7, king b6. Another good move by Wesley. The reason why black doesn't want to capture b5 is that he doesn't want this king to escape with king g1. Yeah. And if let's say you play rook to b2, the knight can go d6, e4, f6, attacking your pawns, yes. And white could probably hold. So Wesley went for king b6. Knight g5 takes. Knight e4, rook e1, nice move. Knight f6, rook e6. This is the timing. The knight cannot take the pawn because there's a pin to the king. White loses the knight. White had to play knight to d7, king c4. Okay, the king escapes, but at least king is already centralized with king b4. Rook a6, the king will be back to his cage on h2 with combination of the king and the rook, right? It's knight e5, king e4, king f1, rook a3, hitting that pawn on g3, king f2, c3, taking away squares for the knight, knight g6, rook c6, knight h4, rook a6, king g1, rook f6. Okay, taking away these two important squares. Right, the knight stuck on h4 at the moment. King f2, king d3. Okay, active king, passive king, king e1, rook a6. If the knight jumps to f5, if he wants to escape, then Wesley can attack that knight on a5. If it goes back to h4, king goes to e3. Yes, and now you're threatening mate. So the king has to go d1, and now you go king f2, and wins. Yeah, once you take that g3 pawn. So king f2 was played, rook a2, king g1, king e2. Okay, king will be back to his cage on h2. Knight f5, rook a1, back to h2, where you belong. King f2, all right. Rook g1 is coming, and rook g2. So knight h4, rook g1. Only move f5, rook a1, nice. If the pawn pushes to f6, you attack that pawn, right? Attacking the pawn from behind. f7, there is rook to f6. Oops. Knight cannot help. So knight g6 was played, rook a6, and f4, nice move, rook f6. The knight once again couldn't take that pawn on h5 because of rook h6. It's going to be checkmate. And now without the protection of the g pawn to the f pawn, this pawn on f5 is a loose piece. It's a loose pawn. So after knight d3, king e3 takes the pawn on f5. One pawn down, one man down. King f2 back. Here, white resign. Now, let's take a look at knight h4, for example. With knight h4, this rook g5. Zugzwang. You're forced to move your king. King takes g3, wins. Let's look at knight f4. Knight f4, we go to k5 the same way. There you go, knight g6. No other move. Okay. Rook a3, hitting the pawn. Also wins. Let's find another square for the knight. Okay, let's say knight to d3 check. King f1. Rook a2, hitting g2. So white goes king h1 to d2 first. King h2. Only then you go rook f2. Right? Now after king h1, then we can sacrifice it. It will be a very beautiful endgame. Rook takes f4, g takes f4, g3 first. White pushes the pawn. Okay, I also push my pawn. f6, h3, f7, and then just h3, g2. Just one tempo down. Only one tempo separates black. Yeah, and black who wins with a checkmate. Okay, that was an endgame masterpiece by Wesley in a rapid game. He's just one of the elite. Okay, and Wesley now is in second place. He's still undefeated. Firuza continues to lead with 1 point. He's on 9 out of 12. Okay, the score, the game score here, the scoring system here is 2 points for a win. The draw is 1, and of course 2 is 2, 1, 0. Yeah, that's for the rapid. That's 9 rounds. It's a round robin. It's 3 games per day. 3 games yesterday, another 3 today, and tomorrow for the last 3 games of the rapid. Right, Firuza 9 out of 12. Wesley is a point behind with 8 out of 12, tied with Von Forrest. Magnus Carlsen's actually with 6. Yeah, this is not Magnus tournament, but he still has time to recover. All right, that was it, guys. A wonderful endgame by Wesley So against Ivan Saric. Thank you guys for supporting our channel, Charge Smash Chess and Charge Smash Entertainment on Facebook and YouTube. This is Coach Oliver. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.